It's the next level.
Getting my nerve chasm.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
What are we talking about?
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, you're not listening to me! I different people don't listen to me! What? What are you talking about?
You're picturing it, and we're talking about it.
I'm not picturing that.
What in heaven's name are you talking about?
My name is Keith Bowerman, and this week we're talking about webcomics. I want to let you guys know here really fast before we move into this. We had some technical difficulties in the recording of this particular episode. Skype was acting up, so to go through and fix the errors and other issues that we had during the recording of this, there are a couple of funky sounding edits, and I apologize for that. There's also a couple of instances where you're going to hear that my voice has a bizarre echo to it. So yeah, again, I'm sorry. These I tried to fix as many of these things as I could here, but some of them I just couldn't get past. So, all right. So moving on here, I would like to introduce today's guests.
I'm Grymmowski, artist and co-creator of VOODOO WALRUS, amongst other things.
I am Villemous, Quetzalcoatl, Creepknight, writer and co-creator of VOODOO WALRUS and God Among Men.
And taster of waffles, I hear.
Taster of Waffles, yeah. Well, that's an old title.
Oh, have you since given that up?
Well, it's not that I've given that up, it's just I've traded my waffle carbs for pasta carbs, so now I'm more like creator of amazing pasta.
Oh, okay.
He does make some outstanding sauces.
Oh, you make outstanding sauces.
Oh, stop you.
Stop you.
Let's just keep stroking our own egos.
Okay, awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the VOODOO Walrus. So your webcomic's at www.voodoo-walrus.com, and tell me a little bit about the general basic idea of the webcomic and sort of how it came about.
You want to field this one?
Let's see. God, we're talking. How long ago was it?
I think we got to go all the way back to the beginning. So in 1993, I'm living in Hanover County, Virginia. I'm in grade school, and I'm a very typical 8-9-year-old. Not too socially outgoing, but not stuck in a repressive zone either. And this new kid moves to town. And this new kid has, this kind of bushy, flaxen brown hair and a mustache and goatee. You did have the mustache and goatee back then, right?
No, I did not.
Okay, well, I forever remember him as having a mustache and goatee, so we'll just go with that.
The programming still holds true.
And what ended up happening was, he was kind of this quiet kid. And it was very obvious that he liked cartoons and stuff because he carried around Garfield books with him all the time. But we're sitting in art class one day because we had, compulsory art lessons when we were in elementary school.
Thank God.
And he'd finished with his project. I had just kind of finished mine. And he was sitting there at the table drawing Garfield. And I was a big fan of drawing myself at the time. And I looked at it, and I just kind of looked at him, and I looked at the paper, and I went, "You drew Garfield! You're my friend now." And that's pretty much how we met.
Now, as far as creating comics goes, we've pretty much been trying to create comics together ever since middle school at this point.
That was actually the very first comic we did was a comic called Fat Man.
Yep, Fat Man, who was the original inspiration or original incarnation of the Mask character now in VOODOO Walrus.
And he would actually go in and on copy paper and panel these things out and I would just kind of sit there over his shoulder. They should do that. They should do that. And then at lunch, him, myself, and a few of our other friends, we would just sit there and throw out these story ideas, these absolutely ridiculous character concepts. We had villains like
the evil Dr. Broccoli, who was literally just a humanoid piece of broccoli.
And of course we had
Big Pig, a shitty criminal that just somehow got a hold of a really fucked up looking robotic pig suit. That eventually turned into Swinehart in Voodoo Walrus.
Has Swinehart actually been in the comic yet?
He was in the background news report when the European comic writer thing was happening in Wrath of Khan.
Okay, so you're actually going to see this like in hopefully a few months' time, since he's supposed to pop up after the current story arc. Spoilers. So
yeah, actually, I think I'm going to go back and trim that a little bit because you guys hadn't revealed he was. That's news to me.
Oh, well, there you go, Keith. Yeah, just censor it out. Actually, just put a great big beep, right over top of it. Because, we work better with censor bars and not with...
You got it.
But anyway, he drew that Fat Man comic. I think he drew, like, 3 or 4 of them, again, just on copy paper. And then he would take them to his mom's office and photocopy them and then color each one with colored pencils?
Prismacolor markers, actually. No, there were colored pencils, too.
Because I still have a copy of one of them that was made with colored pencil.
Yeah, I eventually evolved to markers when, over the course of hand-coloring these pages, one by one, with colored pencils, I had actually bared down so hard to get an even coat of colored pencil onto the pages that I actually wore away the meat in my thumb. Like, I could feel the bone in my thumb, and it's like, this, I don't want to do this anymore.
This is not a good method.
I'm going to start using markers.
Wow.
So, Fat Man was kind of a sporadic thing because it took him a long time to, do a single issue of it. But it was 24 pages, full color, lettered, the whole shebang. And like I said, I still have copies of 1 or 2 of them back at my mother's house. They're hidden away in a box because I'm kind of planning on those being my retirement fund. Should fame ever cross our doorstep. And they're actually beautiful. He'll sit there and say, my art style sucked back then, and it's like, well, you were 12. What do you expect?
My art style is always going to suck because I'm constantly evolving. That's the way the artist is.
So, we did that for a while, and then sometime in high school, him, myself, and another friend of ours who became the basis of both Saradwi and Rip Flintlock, though he remained a friend subsequently. It's like we based our 2 biggest douchebag villains on it, and he knew it. I just want to point that out. And unfortunately, he recently passed away due to medical issues. But up until that day, he knew who these characters were supposed to be based on. And the 3 of us got together and we started work on another comic that we called Chaos Guild. And Chaos Guild was about a group of high schoolers who were railing against the system, man. Like, we were punk rock and evolutionary. We all had stupid fucking code names, and it was like one was the Lord of Chaos, and one was the Lord of Destruction, and one was the Lord of Fava Beans, shit like that. And we on Saturdays when other kids were playing baseball and going to the park and doing constructive things with their time, we would go over to Saradwi's house and sit on the couch, and he would be in his wheelchair, and we would literally just sit there and throw stories at the wall, to the point where we were actually writing scripts probably, 50 or 60 in advance?
I don't know if it was that much, but definitely 20, 30 issues into the future. We had, full storylines and everything.
massive scripts, this huge mythology. Everybody got the superpowers they wanted because it was all a bunch of Mary fucking Sues.
Oh, yeah.
Because we didn't know how to write comics at the time. But, for 2 or 3 years in high school, we had a blast doing this. And this is where the love of doing it came from, the collaborative storytelling, which is what we still do on VOODOO Walrus to this day. And we tried a bunch of other series. There was one I remember distinctly. It was called Prophecy, and it was, I'm saying this especially with Good Omens finally making a TV series on Amazon. Mm-hmm. It was kind of our take on that whole thing, except it involved like 7 different mythologies, none of which we understood.
The entire premise was, hey, the second coming of Christ and the Antichrist are alive at the same time, and they're 5th graders in school. One is looked over by an angel that's pretty much said, fuck heaven, what the fuck even is this? And the other is looked after by a demon that pretty much had the similar personality to Grymm from Invader Zim.
Awesome. And I think I wrote the 4-issue series of this, but there was a huge point of contention because we were talking about doing this, and he'd done up character designs and everything like that, and I was writing these scripts, and I think I'd written the first 2, and then I got really, really into high school theater and stopped writing the other 2. To this day, I don't think I ever wrote the final script. But that's okay, because, in retrospect, that series was really dumb.
Yeah, and there's a reason why, despite us trying to actually submit it for publication with places like Fantagraphics, Image, anybody that was accepting creator-owned submissions at the time, yeah, we got turned down.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't even get more than, out of the 4 or 5 places that we submitted, I think 1 responded to us, and it was just a
form letter.
Just a plain form letter.
We are the masters of getting rejected. So at that point, we kind of had, I'm not going to call it a creative split because that's not really the right word. But again, I got really into theater and I was getting ready to go off to college. He was working the dead shift over at a local convenience store, 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Which is the perfect shift to do if you're alone and you want to draw, because that was pretty much half of my shift any night. Do what cleaning needed to be done, restock what needed to be restocked, and then spend the rest of it working on character designs for the reboot of the Chaos Guild idea that we had before, attempting to get it ready to once again send to publishers.
So right now we're talking about maybe 2004, 2005. And we kind of had figured some shit out between the two of us and everything like that. We were back to hanging out pretty regularly. And he decides to bring me in on this Entropy 101 project, which is what the new incarnation of Chaos Guild was going to be called. Again, you'll recognize that title because it is what it is. Mm-hmm. And, I had learned a lot because I had taken a shit ton of creative writing classes and joined a bunch of workshops. So I came into it with a very different perspective than I'd had when we were in high school. And I said, well, we should do this, we should do that. And it really evolved and it became something much grander. We'd taken it out of the high school and put it in a metroplex. It was very cyberpunk. It was a very, very cool thing. And the artwork he churned out for is still to this day some of the most beautiful comic work he's ever done because it was intricate. It was detailed. In my opinion, it could have put Joe Mad or Andy Kubert to shame any day of the week. Nice. I love it. I've got, again, some of it saved at home. Absolutely beautiful stuff. We were really proud of this. And at the same time, I was dating this psycho chick. I'm not going to mention her name. But, she was, getting pissed at me because Danny and I would be on the phone for 3-4 hours at a shot going over stuff as we're trying to prepare the submission info. And we'd be calling Saradwi up and just kind of be like, all right, we need you to do this. And he'd be like, okay. And, of course, he wouldn't do it. So I ended up having to do it. I took care of most of the written work for that submission packet, the character bios, the plot synopsis, everything. Like, we had this beautiful, beautiful packet. It was a PDF submission, because at that point everybody was doing digital submissions. It was beautiful. We were really proud of it. And the whole time I've got this psycho girlfriend going, well, how come you spend so much time working on the comics and not talking to me? And I'm like, well, because you hit me and tell me lies. True story. Let's get away from the sad part, entirely irrelevant. And we submitted it, and it got rejected. Again, pretty much out of hand by everybody we sent it to. And that was a little disheartening. That had kind of caused Saradwi to sort of be like, well, I'm going to go do my own thing, and he ended up hiring Grymm to do the artwork for that, but he was paying him by the page. He was in complete control of it.
Yeah.
And Grymm and I were sort of left twiddling our thumbs. What do we do now?
Because we'd pretty much given up on the E101 thing, because it's like, if nobody's interested, then what do we do with this?
We need to do something different. And at that point, we had both really gotten into webcomics. Something positive, questionable content, Penny Arcade,
Mac Hall.
Mac Hall was a
VG
big...
Cats.
Those were big ones for us. And, of course, Control-Alt-Delete.
Control-Alt-Delete is the webcomic equivalent of...
What not to do.
Of Liefeld.
Yeah.
At some point, as a comic reader in the 90s, you probably picked up some Liefeld corrupted stuff and didn't realize what was wrong with it at the time.
And as Rob Liefeld can't draw feet or hands, Tim Buckley cannot properly teach his characters to emote. I don't know if you've ever looked at Control-Alt-Delete before, but there's that famous meme of it. Loss. And it's like, I feel bad, sort of talking shit about Tim Buckley. We don't know him or anything. We've never met him. He's up here. We're down here in the Z-level web celebrity basement. But that's okay, because that means we can talk shit about anybody we want to.
I will say this. I recently went back to his site and took a look, and it looks like he has really gotten everything together.
Yeah, but he's famous, so fuck him.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, the idea of doing a webcomic came up, and we were like, well, we don't know how to make a website. And again, this was still back in the days of things like GeoCities, and what were we on originally?
Drunk Duck?
Not Drunk Duck. That came later.
No,
Tripod.
GeoCity. Tripod.
That's it.
Yeah,
Thank
Tripod.
You. So, one of our friends, a dude we called Maestro, he was dating this girl in college at the time, and she sort of said, if you want to do a webcomic, I'll set up a website for you. So we're like, fuck yeah. So we're gonna make a webcomic, and we're gonna get famous and make a lot of money, and there will be people aplenty looking to do things to us, and we were very excited.
We spent many a car ride just riding around our local area, talking up ideas and being like, okay, all right, so how's this? We have characters based on us, and we've got a straight man character in there that just absolutely fucking hates them, and they've got a floating pygmy cow. Because it's a webcomic, we need some ridiculous talking animal.
We need that marketable thing that we can make plushies of and sell eventually. Because, make no mistake, we like money.
And plushies.
Our love of money has actually gotten us in trouble with our fans before, so, and here's the ironic thing, last 2 years, both of us are like, fuck capitalism, but that's neither here nor there.
No.
So we did this thing on Tripod, we did about 6 strips, and then we discovered that our original webmistress was fucking unreliable as hell, and had no idea what she was doing. Literally, we would send her a strip, and she'd put it up, and all you could see is the top 6 inches of one panel blown up to a ridiculous size, and she'd call me up, and she'd kind of be like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm doing all right. How you doing?" She's like, "God, can you resize the comic?" And I'm like, "Can't you do that?" I don't really know how. Okay, well, what size do you need it to? I don't know, just, kind of shrink it down to, maybe 25% of what it is, and we'll go from there. And literally, it would be me on the phone with her every time we posted a strip, resizing comics over and fucking over again. And it just, we got frustrated, and we said, fuck it! And that's the way it was for a while. And then about 6 months later, we're talking, and we're like, we had all these great ideas for VOODOO Walrus, and like maybe we should do it again. So in March of 2006, that's exactly what we did. We hosted on
Comic Genesis. That's what it was.
Comic Genesis originally. We moved to Drunk Duck, and then eventually we got our own site. And that's how VOODOO Walrus came about. We just we wanted to really amuse each other. That's kind of what it was about.
Pretty much. It originally started as just a bunch of us throwing stuff against the wall and in-jokes.
Yeah.
At first, we were really just doing a comic in the hopes of, if not amusing ourselves, then amusing the real-life inspiration for Bowler.
Yeah. So from March 2006 to, I don't know, sometime in 2007, we did that. And we did about 80 strips. That was the black and white era. And we were very proud of it, but as is often the case for a lot of creatives, real life gets in the way.
Real life got in the way, and we really weren't sure where to take things at that point.
We knew that using places like Comic Genesis and Drunk Duck, we really couldn't monetize beyond merchandising, which meant that no matter what we did, we were having to pay out of pocket to do this thing. In a variety of different ways, because he was still doing hand-drawn artwork at the time, so that required Bristol board, pencils, ink pens, and Prismacolor markers, which, let me tell you, is a very expensive venture to enter into. I was using a bootleg copy of Photoshop that I'd had for years, that I'd picked up in college to work on projects and stuff, to letter it, and the lettering back then just looked god-awful. So, again, we got frustrated, real life got in the way, and we were missing deadlines and losing readers left and right. You'll find this is a common tale for us. And we kind of put it on hiatus for about 7 or 8 months.
Something like that.
Until Marin came to us and said, "Hey, where the fuck is the new issue of VOODOO Walrus?" And we're like, "Well, we're kind of on a break right now." And she's like, "You've been on a break for almost a year." And it's like, "Well, we don't really want to use Comic Genesis or Drunk Duck anymore." And she's like, "Well, I'll build you a fucking website." So she went and built us the website. That launched in June 2009.
That sounds about right.
Give or take. And pretty much since then, we've been posting. I'm not going to say regularly because everybody knows that's bullshit, but we've been posting pretty much ever since. And it really is. It's a hobby of ours. We still do it kind of to amuse each other, but now we have fans out there that we also like to amuse and talk to, and we not with all of our fans, but with like two or three of our fans, we've actually developed something akin to friendships.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
We definitely consider you a friend, Keith.
Oh, well, thank you.
We like you a lot. You are, as far as we're concerned, you're part of the creative team at this point, because what have you? You've built us a wiki. You have promoted the shit out of our work. Not just VOODOO Walrus, but other stuff that we've done that you've known about, and you've just really been there for us. So you're part of the crew as far as we're concerned.
Oh, I appreciate that.
You're our man in Pittsburgh, which is going to come in real handy because at some point we really need to go to Pittsburgh.
Well, I'm in Harrisburg, actually.
Oh well, shit, fuck that. I've been to Harrisburg.
There's not much here.
I've been to Pittsburgh, and yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
Eh.
But you know what? You know what Pennsylvania does have that Virginia doesn't?
Amish?
No, we have Amish, and we have Mennonites. No, they have fucking diners. Real fucking 24 hours a day, 2,000 things on the menu diners.
So when you say fucking diners, it's diners where you can order some fucking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's on the damn menu.
Okay, I was not expecting that answer, but okay.
It's actually right between the pork roll and the chicken parmigiana, which is like chicken parmesan, but generally involves a grilled breast instead of a fried breast, and probably provolone instead of mozzarella.
Yeah.
Well, that just sounds not quite right, but still completely edible.
Well, you'll find that everything you see at a real diner is not quite right. And I say this, I've only been to one, and that was actually... No, that was in Pennsylvania. That was definitely in Pennsylvania. But I fucking loved it. We need one of those here, because the closest we've got is Silver Diner, which is not open 24 hours a day and is so outrageously priced that no one can eat there but the mid-level yuppies who live in Short Pump.
I've got one like 10 minutes up the street from here, so it's an awesome deal.
Sweet.
Nice.
And we got to come do karaoke with you.
That would be great.
Well, you got to hear Grymm's rendition of I Believe in a Thing Called Love. It's fucking spectacular.
I don't know that song.
Stop it. Stop pretending like the darkness does not live within you.
Oh, the darkness lives within me, but songs kind of just die in me.
They die when they come out of your mouth, too.
Yeah, they die even harder then.
Well, having been a karaoke host for a while now, I think I've kind of built up a tolerance. So I'm hip. I want to check that out.
That's very fair.
But yeah, that's the story of Voodoo Walrus and how it came about and how it is in the present day. And again, like I said, we're kind of famous for going on these long hiatuses. But the fact of the matter is, like over the last 6 years, on a personal level, we've just had a really bad string of luck.
Oh, absolutely.
No doubt about that. I mean, yeah.
I mean,
right.
I'm going to make a joke about this, and it's going to sound awful, but we're at a 75% parental loss here.
Yes.
Over the course of the last 5-6 years. I've lost jobs. Financial straits. I mean, it's a whole kind of Magilla gorilla. Fate is unkind to us, and we keep flicking her off like the bastards we are by continuing to do this comic, because when things get hard, we get creative.
Right. Okay. So why don't you go ahead and, for people who have never seen, heard, or read Voodoo Walrus, kind of thumbnail, what's the basic concept of the comic?
The basic concept is exaggerated slice of life adventures of two comic creators who have to deal with a bunch of weird ass Lovecraftian bullshit, murderous publishers, and God knows what else. One of the toughest things about Voodoo Walrus is the fact that there's no easy way for us to say, this is what the comic is about.
I completely agree. I've had people ask me about it as I have talked to it and pimped your work, and they're like, what's it about? I'm like, I don't know. Read it.
Basically, it's two guys fuck up the world, and their friends bail them out. That's really, at the heart of it, it's a story about two friends who love each other dearly and are very close and very tight, and the fallout that everybody else has to deal with because of that.
Because they keep ruining everything.
I mean, it's sort of a testament to our life. We've had more than one person, kind of look at us and go, if you two weren't friends, everybody else would have an easier time of it.
Okay, I can see that.
Because we're hard on sanity, that's sort of how we roll.
There you go.
But more often than not, we just amuse rather than terrify and ruin.
Yeah, there's this very famous thing. That was Diesel shaking his collar. Diesel is our mascot. He's our beagle. He might be mistaken for a floating pygmy cow, though.
Uh-oh.
So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
Right.
Really, at its core, Voodoo Walrus is us just throwing anything that might seem like a good idea against the wall and seeing what happens.
It's a 13-year experiment teaching us how to not make a comic.
Okay, I like that. One of the things that struck me in reading it is in the earlier parts of the strip, it appeared to be kind of more like the joke of the day format, and then as time went on and it moved on, it appeared to develop more of an overarching narrative about destiny and friendship and bringing together all these elements that seemed completely disparate when they were initially in the strip before. Was this a plan, or was this something that came along later and said, hey, you know that thing we did in the strip? Well, we could retcon that to mean this and move forward? Because you got a pretty heavy-duty storyline going on right now that's kind of bringing everything to a head.
Shit! He's on to us! He's on to us! Abort!
That's been brought up to us before by certain parties, not as eloquently, I might add.
Thank you.
My typical answer to that is this. We started the comic one way, and then we sat down on the commode, we started reading a comic book, and we accidentally plotted.
There's nothing worse than an accidental plot in your pants, I tell you.
No, there really isn't, especially when, you just go to make a joke, and it comes out as a plot. Then you got to go change your pants. Really, as you were asking us that question, both of us were kind of waving our hands back and forth because it's about 50-50. What we're doing in the comic now, we've had planned for probably 5 or 6 years.
Something like that.
A very long time. Like, we were working to this. If you'll remember back years ago, we put up these little splash art pieces for Phase 2, and then we never really delivered. Well, that's what we're building to right now, which is Phase 2. And Phase 2 is kind of the culmination because, again, all of Phase 1 has been that grand experiment of how to not make a comic. Like, to this day, we're still figuring out what works and what doesn't, and what we think works isn't always what fans think works, so once we actually finish this storyline, and we're getting close. I mean, I think we've got, maybe a dozen strips left?
12 to 20 pages left.
And once that happens, so it'll probably be finished before the end of this year if we keep on track with what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And once that starts, we're going to begin Phase 2. And Phase 2 is a whole new Megillah, because we're moving away from the Grymm and Creepknight show and actually going to expound upon the mythology of the world that we've created. Specifically, where superheroes come from, where the monsters come from, where all the little squidgy things actually come from, and why they came about. We're going to start talking about things like East Dakota, and dimensional rifts, and vampires with tomatoes for teeth. I mean, the sky's the limit, and that's why we're really looking forward to Phase 2.
All right, excellent. That's one of the things that I always really loved, was the fact that the characters would bring things up like East Dakota in dialogue and then just never explain it. Just leave it there and move on. So as a reader, you're sitting there going, well, what the hell are they talking about? Kind of like the noodle incident, to draw a parallel to Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah, no, we got you. Sort of. He probably got you more than I did.
Took me a second.
One of the things that I absolutely hate as a reader is the dangling plot thread. Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer in the principle of Chekhov's gun. And I believe that if you bring something up that's as interesting and enticing as, we're going to use East Dakota as an example, something as interesting and enticing as East Dakota, you need to explain it. But you don't have to do it right away. And that's the best part. That's what keeps people coming back, is that suspense. What the fuck is this thing they're talking about, man?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons East Dakota never really got a mention when I was putting the wiki together, is it had long since been established by that point, but I had no idea how to preface it. It just you're the reason East Dakota isn't there anymore. Well, what the hell happened? I can't just put that.
There's like a big reason for it, and again, we're going to explain it. It's it's very loosely plotted out at this point, but like we know what happens 20 years from the down. If we're still doing this when we're in our 50s, we know what happens 20 years down the line. Like we've worked it out. Generally speaking, over long car rides down backcountry roads where the fog grows up nice and thick and you can't see the tires anymore. Because that's how we roll.
Yeah.
But there is the fact that there are some plot-heavy things that we never really expected them to become a thing, and then they just happen to become a thing, and we're like, well, hey, that worked out really well.
That was convenient for us.
Then there's other things that just creepily, we kind of inadvertently wielded our own innate chaos magic, and we put something in the comic, and then it kind of turned into reality, which
It's horrible. It's horrible. Let me explain this to you as best I can.
Okay.
So I'm going into the grocery store the other day to do some shopping. And I literally see one of the eldritch abominations of people that he has drawn. We're not talking about Nuxor level of human disgust here, but we are talking about somebody whose bodily shape is more akin to that of an amoeba, wearing a tank top and a pair of shorts. Now, I want to expressly express that it is currently about 65 degrees outside. This has been the break in the cold. So about 2 weeks ago, we're talking temperatures in the 30s. They're wearing a tank top and a pair of shorts and a pair of flip-flops in the fucking grocery store. And they literally look like something Grymm has drawn.
So something like the Angry Nun Action Squad cosplayer.
No, not that bad.
Oh, dear God.
No, that has its own special little place in hell, unfortunately.
That's why you censored it.
Getting my nerve chasm.
Right there is the title for this podcast.
How many times have we used that in the comic?
Just once.
Just once?
Or wait, maybe twice.
I was about to say, I think twice now. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Irrelevant! But it's funny, shit he draws, like, you're me aside, because I know I'm talking a lot and I don't shut up, but you're actually talking, the other guy you're talking to is one of the most powerful chaos magicians on the fucking planet.
I just have no control over it.
Yeah, he's completely unfocused, because shit he draws becomes reality. The problem is, like, none of it is the shit you want. Like, I think 70% of the reason we created the Anna Fortune character is I wanted to see if, like, she would become reality. And, because I get lonely. I want somebody to curl up and watch Netflix with,
right.
But true Netflix and chill, like, we're going to keep our clothes on because I get cold. And, I mean, there's shit that I will insert into ideas literally because I just want to see it happen.
Right. And they don't.
And they don't. Like, none of the good shit happens. It's all fucking Twilight cereal and
horrible experiments in marketing that I shoved in the background.
So, all right, if you remember the trip to the grocery store arc, this happened several years back.
Mm-hmm.
They had something called Diet Water in the comic. And up to this point, we had never seen this in a retail outlet. A year later, we're walking into a Kroger. We've got to pick up something for dinner. We're walking down Diet Water. Right there, right fucking there. Diet Water. Now with electrolytes. And I'm like, God damn it, Danny!
Okay, so I'll keep my eye out for Doom Cola eventually, hopefully.
Oh, God, that's one of the things we want to exist. I mean, we need that extra level. We need so much caffeine that it takes you to another plane of thought.
Maybe caffeine that I'll actually feel for once.
Keith, I want to tell you a story.
All right.
I got to tell you this story. I don't know, have you ever heard of Black Blood of the Earth?
Yes.
Okay, so you know what it is.
Right.
All right, for the listeners who don't know, Black Blood in the Earth is super concentrated cold-pressed coffee. It comes in these, it looks like a very large bullet, a vial. And one of these bullets is supposed to contain the power of 30 cups of cold-pressed coffee. My uncle's a computer programmer. He turned me on to this stuff. He drinks half of one and stays up for 2 days. This is a man who drinks enough caffeine that if you're standing next to him in a urinal, you go, Starbucks open? That's how much coffee he drinks. The man is very, well, he used to be, I don't know if he still is or not, because he doesn't drink it. I mean, he drinks coffee, but I'm rambling. Anyway, so he gave me a couple of these containers of Black Blood of the Earth, and I remember I drank about half of one, and like him, I was up for 24, 36 hours before I crashed. I was like, this is great stuff. So every year we do this Halloween event, and it's fucking exhausting because, we're both working jobs on top of doing this Halloween event. And, we get tired. So we have looked for new forms of caffeine over the years. And once I found Black Blood of the Earth, I was very excited because I'm like, this is going to be great. So I bring this out to Creepy. I've already drunk the other half of the canister I have, and I bring one to Grymm. And I'm like, this is that Black Blood of the Earth shit I was talking about. Try it. And he takes it, and he cracks it open, and he downs the whole fucking thing.
Oh.
I mean, just the whole fucking thing. And Keith, you want to know what happened? Son of a bitch fell asleep on the wagon an hour later.
It's not my fault. We stopped. We took a break between groups, stopped for more than 5 minutes. Of course I'm going to fall asleep.
The son of a bitch fell asleep after drinking the equivalent of 30 cups of cold-pressed coffee. It's fucking embarrassing!
I have nothing to say to that.
It's unreal, and that's not the only time shit like this has happened. I want to point this out. Grymm, I'm convinced that is not entirely human.
I'm okay with that.
His metabolism and the way he reacts to things is just funny. I am I was up until like 4 weeks ago, a big fan of Mountain Dew. I drank it all the time. I loved it. I loved the taste. I thought it was great. 4 weeks ago, starts tasting like shit to me, but that's going to happen as you get older and you realize sugar is bad. Mm-hmm. This motherfucker, every time he drinks a Mountain Dew, he goes, it tastes like sawdust.
It does!
I'm like, how do you get sawdust after refreshing citrus and caffeine? Every version. Fountain drink tastes like sawdust. Bottle tastes like sawdust. Can tastes like sawdust. The only version of Mountain Dew I've ever known him to drink and not comment that it tastes like sawdust was that lime version that came out about, I don't know, like 10 years ago. Wow. Doesn't matter. It tastes like sawdust. It's unfucking real.
Yeah, I'm confused.
I've known this son of a bitch for almost 30 years now. I'm confused. I love you, by the way.
I know.
I'm calling you a motherfucker and a son of a bitch, but I love you.
It's to be expected. I am very weird.
It's not that you're weird. Like I'm telling tales out of school right now, but just like Keith, it's mind-boggling.
The point is, weird shit happens around us, and it's never really beneficial for us.
Yeah.
I just hope at no point Nuxor comes into existence.
Okay. I think I lost you guys for about a good minute.
That's okay. None of what we were saying was relevant anyway.
Okay.
I was just bitching about how he wasn't human.
Mm.
And I think you caught some of that, so.
Yeah, I did.
Just, erase over it. It was funnier for us than it'll be for your listeners, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it's tough to keep track of the wants and needs of two people, so, we'll be all right.
Don't sell yourself short, Keith. You've got at least 4.
Oh, well, there you go. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so I kind of want to transition slightly into more arty questions. So,
cool, I'm going to smoke a cigarette.
My body is ready.
All right. Ooh, lovely. Okay, what I was excuse me, what I was saying was that I know that when VOODOO WALRUS started, as you guys discussed earlier, that you were actually working in physical media, boards, ink, pens, all that stuff. How has going to a more digital platform using the pads and stuff, has that altered your art style in any way?
I don't know if it's really altered my style. I do think it has increased, like, the pace of my style's evolution. Because now I don't have to worry about running out of ink, or worrying about sharpening pencils constantly, or, you know, being very, very cautious when it comes to inking. Like, inking was one of those things that I hated the most, because no matter what I did, I could not get the level of detail with the ink pens. Because, like, when you get down to a certain, like, small nib of pen, either you don't get good enough ink flow for a consistent line, or, you know, if you try to go up a few nib sizes, then you get too thick of a line, and neither here nor there. It's just so much easier doing it digital, especially using the, the Surface Pro. That's what I use now. And what I've been using since about the time that they invaded Rip's base in the comic was about when I started doing the comic completely and only on the Surface Pro machine I had at the time. And it's just made things infinitely easier since then, as far as drawing goes.
Okay. Do you ever... Well, I guess I imagine you still do work in physical media. Do you miss that at all as being like a primary art outlet, or are you perfectly fine to say, you know, I'm totally cool to set all this stuff aside and work on the Pro now?
I'm pretty okay with it, just working on the Pro. The funny thing is, way back when I first started basically being a freelance illustrator online, that was during like the early years of the Wacom tablets and everything that were being in use, and I just railed against it. I was like, oh, no, this isn't right. How can you get good lines when, you know, your hands are working on a piece of plastic and you're watching a monitor? This is stupid. This is dumb. It's like, then I ended up getting a secondhand Wacom from, well, our webmistress, Marin. And that led into me getting a Pro once those came out. And it's like, yeah, I have my entire studio, everything I need, in the palm of my hands, and that's fantastic to me. Now, if anybody came along and wanted to commission me and went, I really want a commission in traditional media, I have no problem doing that, because it's not like you lose the skill set there. But if I'm just left to my own devices, doing what I want to do, I'm pretty much going to stick with the Pro. The only exception for that would be my Surrealist Grimoire project.
Right.
That's still going to get done in traditional media as far as the basic image goes, and then digitally colored, just because one of these days I am eventually going to fill up the entire sketchbook that project is in. One day.
Of which, by the way, I own several pieces, and they're quite awesome. So definitely talk to Grymm about getting your own copies.
If you love fever dreams and nightmare imagery, Surrealist Grimoire is the place to be.
Yep. They hang right above my desk, so I'm actually looking at them right now.
That warms the cold, black blood pump that is my heart.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. So, of all of the pieces that you've done, I recognize this is going to be like, who's your favorite child question, but is there one thing that you've done, you know, in any of your projects that made you step back and go, this is fucking awesome. This is like the best thing ever.
Keith, I got something I got to tell you, man. You are talking to one of the most self-deprecating artists on the planet.
Oh, I'm aware of that as I'm trying to, to get something positive here.
I still love a lot of my grimoire pieces. Specifically, Divergence from Mass, the mosquito-looking thing coming out of the big yellow blobby-looking thing.
Yep.
I've always loved that piece. Garden of Unspoken Delights with the fetus fruit tree. Always quite liked that.
That's actually one of my favorites as well.
And there's actually a couple of Voodoo Walrus pages here and there where I'm just like, I have no idea how I managed to pull that off, but I'm glad I did. One big piece in particular that every so often I'll find myself, looking at again, just because I come back across it looking in my galleries, was a piece that the Real Life Mirth commissioned me for, which involved the character that she performed at the haunted hayride event that we do.
I've seen it.
Yeah, along with a few other cast members that were part of that particular section of the event. And it's like, that came out perfect. It's one of those pieces that I'm just like, even years later, I have no issues with the way this turned out. So yeah, every so often, the self-hatred doesn't rear its head for things, which is nice.
Okay. All right, good stuff. I like that. All right, so let's just kind of segue into other randomness for just a little bit here. Creepknight, one of my favorite things that you had done, I think you only did this like maybe 2 or 3 times, but you guys were maintaining a YouTube channel for a little while, and you had a feature called Ask Creepknight a Fucking Question. So I'm about to ask you some fucking questions.
Right on.
All right. If you had to eat a crayon out of a box of 64, what color would you pick?
Cerulean.
Okay. Do you have a...
It's the only color I can really see. Because I'm still colorblind, asshole.
Okay. Do you have a favorite toe?
I do. I call it the witch toe.
That thing that you have in your nightstand?
No, that's the witch's toe. That was my trophy for slaying her. No, I have on my left toe, on my left foot, what I call the index toe. There's actually a misshapen toenail, and when it grows out, it kind of looks like the toe that a witch would have. So I call it my witch toe, and it's the center of my power.
Oh. That answers so many questions I didn't know I had. All right. Is it worse when you try to go up a step that's not there and hit thin air, or when you try to go down a step that's not there and hit the floor?
Keith, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't use stairs anymore. The last time I tried to go up a set of steps, I ended up walking into a secondary dimension, and I saw what my mother looked like as a teenager. And it was scary.
Oh, my.
It wasn't actually my mother. It was a false mother. I love my mom. That wasn't her. I would know her anywhere.
Wow. Okay. Did not expect that when I asked that question. Okay. Let's just do the last one here. You and a very attractive person are trapped in an elevator. You're getting to know each other very well, and the time is passing pleasantly when you suddenly become aware that you have to go to the bathroom really bad. What kind of arrangements do you make? Be specific.
I'm glad you brought this up, Keith, because this is actually a point of contention between me and the laws of nature. I am actually 12% camel. And in being 12% camel, I actually have the ability to hold both my bladder and my bowels for extraordinarily long periods of time. Under normal circumstances, I usually only have to urinate once every 12 hours, and I usually only have to... well, let's not talk about that. Let's actually not talk about that. But you know.
Okay.
So in response to the question, what arrangements would I make? I fucking hold it because I'm an adult.
Okay.
I mean, I guess if worst came to worst, I would open up the trap door in the ceiling and climb up it and, shit off the side. But, I mean, who's got time for that?
Ain't no one got time for that.
And this, by the way, is why I stopped doing that YouTube show.
Well, it's because you lost a mic.
But, I found another one and I never started doing it again.
Oh,
so.
true.
No, I have a love-hate relationship with that because I hate video editing.
Right.
Like, I absolutely... of all the things you have to do in graphic design, I think that's my least favorite, especially where the YouTube model is. Because while I do spend probably a good 15 hours a week watching videos on YouTube, falling into YouTube holes, I really do kind of just hate it.
I do watch a lot of it too. There's some creators that I follow, but having done some creation on YouTube for various projects, I completely agree with you. It's just a pain in the ass, and they'll flag you for the most random shit that some dude who you have never heard of is suddenly claiming all kinds of copyrights in your shit, and there's just no way really to fight that. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, what I got nailed with for Ask Creepknight a Fucking Question is I used Nothing But Flowers on those videos because it's one of my favorite songs, and I think it sounds very much in tune with who my character is. Now, I tried to avoid using the lyrics, but I did use the opening riff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it got, I got takedown notices for that, and I think the videos are back up now, maybe.
Yeah, I think.
Because, it was fair use. I'm using less than a 30-second sample, so.
Yeah.
But, YouTube don't care.
Yeah, pretty much. But I used, I think it was from Bye Bye Birdie. I did a video for the Playhouse I used to work for. It was a karaoke version of one of the songs from Bye Bye Birdie, and I got a takedown from the karaoke company. Like, what?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, so it's bizarre. All right, so another thing I like to do whenever people deign to be my guests, I fool them into coming in. I want to ask you 3 questions, and you can both either answer this together or answer it separately. It's entirely up to you.
Okay.
I would like to know something that you love, something that you loathe, and something that you've recently learned.
You want to go first?
Let's see. Something that I love. Well, something that I love, one thing that I have loved that has just been a constant over most of my life, Ninja Turtles. Love me some Ninja Turtles. Almost every incarnation of the Ninja Turtles, I will watch that shit. Except for the live-action show on Fox. That was just pure toxicity. Something I loathe.
Real quick, is there a specific turtle?
Raphael. Raphael has always been my man.
Yeah, I'm with you there, brother.
Oh, yeah. Something I loathe would have to be toxic fan culture.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta hate me some toxic fan culture, especially the douche bros that keep harping on how Disney ruined Star Wars. Just about anybody that goes, X ruined Y. It's like, you go ahead and you try to write or film or do whatever, man. You go ahead and you do your own thing if you're not happy with what other people are pumping out.
I mean, I don't understand how you can actually ruin a space opera. There's no rules.
Yeah. I mean, you're allowed to say that you don't like something. I love Star Trek. I do not like Voyager. I did not like Enterprise. But I'm not about to sit here and start to scream about, oh, they ruined it. It's dumber than hell, man. You don't dig it, don't see it. That's
exactly. And something I learned recently, well, I'm going to go with that thing I posted on Facebook with the monkey that fucking puts its lip over its face to, intimidate people. What was that, like Gandala, something like that?
Something like that.
Something like that.
One of the old world monkeys.
It's like, I would not want to fuck with that monkey. I don't even really like looking at this thing. It kind of creeps me out.
I love the fact that he has that red mark that looks like a tie.
Right? I thought it was like a gaping chest wound or something. I'm like, is this monkey so badass it can just walk around with it? No, they're all like that. Fuck, apparently it's like some kind of mating thing. The bigger and more bulbous and the redder it is, like, the more attractive they are. What the fuck? You do you, monkey.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna, flip my lip up here and go out and, like, dance in front of my wife a little bit and see what happens.
Make sure you let us know how that goes.
It won't end well. I'm very sure of that.
Well, for safety's sake, maybe you should go out and buy a penguin stuffy before you do it.
Actually, I was thinking about buying a cup, but yeah, that works too.
Six of one, half a dozen of a penguin. I mean,
What about a cup with, like, a penguin printed on it?
Well, I think you got something there. Penguin protective gear. I like it.
Penguin cup.
Penguin cup.
Nice.
She'd be loath to kick a penguin.
Time-traveling penguin cups, maybe?
Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God.
Creepknight will always have something against Detective Pingowski.
Hey, Keith, I want you to ask me who created Detective Pingowski.
Who created Detective Pingowski?
Grymm and my mother. This is an absolutely true story. So, one day, the three of us are in the car together. I have no idea why.
Oh.
We might be going to dinner or some shit like that. And, we're talking about new comic ideas, and she just kind of pipes in, what about a time-traveling penguin? And I'm like, Mom, we don't write children's books. But you could do a time-traveling penguin who's also a detective. And he just chimes in, Detective Pingowski, and for the next 15 minutes, I'm listening to them rattle off ideas that both of them know annoy the shit out of me. He has a time-traveling igloo. Danny pipes in, it's bigger on the inside.
Yeah, and Creep, now you may not know this, but I actually did commission Grymm to draw me a Detective Pingowski with a caricature of my wife.
I do actually know that, and I want to let you know that my mom is still waiting for royalties.
No. Talk to Grymm. I paid him.
Okay, so something I love. God, there's so many things because I'm so full of love. I can't help but get a little of it on you. Right now, I'm gonna go with the No Sleep subreddit.
Okay.
Absolutely adore No Sleep. I read stuff on there probably at least 2 hours a day. It's a great place to spot up-and-coming horror writers and even established horror writers who are trying to write anonymously, but it's like, no, we know your style. You can't write an ending. We know you're Stephen King. Or Bentley Little, whichever. But absolutely adored, especially because you find some of the most original fiction on there. I don't know if you've ever read Pen Pal by Dathan Auerbach.
I have not.
But that actually started off as a No Sleep post, and he then published it into this book that is absolutely fantastic. One of the first things I've read in a long time that actually scared me and creeped me out at the same time. And I know he's got a new book out. I actually have it. I haven't quite finished reading it yet. But there's some genuinely great stuff on No Sleep. And if you get a chance, just kind of scroll through it. Just remember, if you put it on Reddit, people will steal it.
Right.
Something I loathe. God, there's just so many things. I'm so full of loathing, I just can't help but get a little of it on you.
You've used that one already.
Yeah, I know. It's called Symmetry Day.
Oh.
All I know is he's making a mess over here.
Well, if you don't clean your office after a visit from Creepknight, we didn't do it right.
That's a good point.
Something I loathe. The belief that we must inherently support small businesses. Yeah, no, that's coming as a shock, right?
Please elaborate.
Okay, so I don't know if this is nationwide or if this is just something they do around here, but about once a year they do something called Small Business Saturday. It's usually right around Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's where you're supposed to stop shopping on Amazon, stop shopping at Walmart, stop shopping at JCPenney, and go around to some of the smaller stores in your area and give them your money. And I'm all for small businesses. I mean, that's how large businesses start. They start as small businesses. And it's not something I have inherently against them. But there are a lot of small businesses out there that offer the same products as the larger stores, and don't try to separate themselves. Their focus is on the small business experience as opposed to, actually trying to make something a little different, something a little better. And people talk about how, we should support small businesses, but, I vote for supporting businesses that do good things, not only for the community, but also for their employees. And generally, they set themselves apart. This is why I love small bookstores, small comic book stores, small gaming stores, things like, nerd culture, because they do try to do something to set themselves apart. And there are a few stores out there that, really do a great job. There's a couple of local country stores out here that have things like barbecue counters, and you can get some of the best friggin' barbecue in the area, and you get it at a country store. Shout out to Jake's Place up in Ashland. They're built inside of an old gas station. Some of the best food you'll ever find, including Southern egg rolls, which Keith, I got to tell you, I didn't know I needed an egg roll that was filled with pulled pork and collard greens until I had this thing.
You have my attention.
It is. I mean, it's fucking amazing. They take an egg roll, egg roll wrapper, they put the collards in it, they put some onions in it, they put some pulled pork in it, they wrap it up, they deep fry it, and they hand it to you, and you eat it, and you go, oh my god, that is amazing. And that's the kind of small businesses I'm looking to support. But to have an event called Small Business Saturday, it's like, if a small business does something well, word of mouth is going to get out, and people will support them. So I hate that culture, this whole, we've got to do the right thing with our money. It's like, that's not how it works.
So it's sort of the artificiality of the concept.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's something that's just been bothering me here lately, and that's neither here nor there.
Gotcha.
Something I learned recently, groundhogs make noise.
Okay.
I didn't actually know that until this afternoon, just before we got on the phone with you. So I'm going to tell you a story, as I'm wont to do. We have a little bit of a groundhog problem here at the Walrus house. There's a groundhog that likes to come around and taunt the dog. And I had never seen a groundhog up close until I started living here. And you got to understand, these things are blubbery little masses of fur that are so ugly you cannot see their legs. I mean, literally, it just looks like the fastest moving gelatinous mass you've ever seen, only it's covered in fur and it's got the face of a rodent.
Well, clearly you've never seen me naked.
Is that an invitation?
We'll talk after we're done.
Right on. So anyway, this thing likes to pop up in front of our front door when I leave it open, because I go outside a lot. And it taunts the dog. And when that happens, Diesel, God bless him, he just goes utterly crazy. But what's worse than that is he gets up under the house and he starts scratching things. I start looking for mice or rats because we live out in the country. That's not really that uncommon. I mean, we're not squeamish. We understand how it works. Can't find anything, and then, Grymm will just remind me, it's the fucking groundhog, dude. And I'm like, I'm going to kill that fucking groundhog. He's like, yes, so yesterday we're sitting there talking, and Diesel has been going nuts all day, and he looks at me, he's like, you still going to kill the groundhog? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to kill the groundhog. So he's like, go kill the groundhog. I'm like, all right. So I go outside. Sometime during the winter, during one of our snows, we actually broke our big push broom trying to clean things up. And as such, we now have a broom handle that has a very sharp tip on it. Basically, I'm calling it my groundhog killing spear. So this afternoon, I'm sitting outside, I'm reading my book, I'm smoking a cigarette, and I'm, out of the corner of my eye, I see the groundhog cross my periphery. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get that motherfucker! And I grab the spear, and I chuck it at the groundhog, and I overshoot because I got a terrible fucking aim. But it does land close enough to him that when it clatters down onto the ground, it doesn't whack him on the back, but it sort of lands like right on the tip of where his butt is. Scares the shit out of him. He makes this sound. Whee! And just takes off. Running for the whee! Just as fucking fast as he can. And I'm sitting there going, huh, I didn't know that. So now I know that.
Well, there you go. The only groundhog I've ever heard is that one that we have here in Pennsylvania, out in Puxatawney, that spouts filthy, filthy lies about spring coming soon.
Hate that motherfucker.
That motherfucker needs to die.
I tell you.
If I ever get his cousin on the end of my spear, I'll mail it to you.
Thank you.
You just show it to him. This is what came of the ones before you.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so we're a little over an hour in, so we should probably go ahead and start to wrap this up. So, floor is yours to pimp.
Well, beyond...
Read Voodoo Walrus, guys. I mean, we have a lot of fun with it. We're fun guys. We're mushroom. We're not mushrooms. We are not mushroom people, but we are fun guys, and we make a great product. We really believe in it.
We love what we do, and we love it when other people are entertained.
And for the love of God, if you do read it, please leave us a comment in our comment section. We love that.
Or, hey, check us out on Patreon.
Yes.
We keep getting stumbling over my words here. So, gonna start doing more stuff for, even the dollar level for Patreon, because... recently, I've come to the conclusion that I really don't like the content creators that are like, if you pledge $1 to my Patreon, I'll put your name on something, or you'll have our thanks. So it's like, no. It's like, no, let's do more for folks if they're going to be like, yeah, I love you enough to give you money. Even $1 is a lot to some people. Mm-hmm. So it's like, that might be worth checking out for anybody that might be interested in seeing more random art or behind-the-scenes stuff. Beyond that, keep an eye out on Voodoo Walrus and the Voodoo Walrus social medias, because very soon I'm going to start putting out stuff in regards to my new project, Conquest of the Aerolith Mortis.
Yeah, I was looking forward to that. You actually had a trailer on YouTube a million years ago about that as well for your first iteration of that.
Yeah, something that was put together by Marin, because at the time she was acting as my colorist for that. That's no longer the case, because it's just really hard to kind of schedule things out there.
Right.
And the story's changed quite a bit since then. But it's like, I've probably got about a pile of papers, about as tall as our dog is, that just has so much concept and conceptual art. But it's like, right now, I'm finally working on the first page, and this is what I'm going to be doing when I'm not working on Voodoo Walrus or commissions, because it's the time for me to get this thing done.
All right. So how does one commission some Grymmish art?
Wow, that shows how long it's been since I've actually really done commissions.
Well, the first thing you need is a cauldron. Very important that it be a cast iron or stainless steel cauldron.
No, that's not important. It can be made from the bones of your enemies if you want.
Well, yeah, but if you try to boil something in the bones of your enemies, it's just going to seep through.
I mean, true, but it's like the thought that counts.
Well, what we want people to avoid using pewter because, it's environmentally irresponsible.
I don't care about that.
Well, I care about that. So anyway, you're going to take this cauldron, and you're just going to fill it with offerings.
Chicken Parmesan, Coca-Cola, latex fashion models.
And then you're going to set all this stuff on fire.
Not the latex fetish models. They deserve to live.
Yeah, so this just got problematic really fast.
Yes, I know. Anyway. Grymm, you tell them how to do it. You can email that. You can email that shit.
Oh yeah. Basically, email me at thebadgergrymm@gmail.com.
Or message him on Facebook.
Or message me on Facebook under Grymmowski, I think. I don't actually remember my usernames for anything anymore.
And Grymm spelled Grymm, by the way.
Yes.
It is not pronounced Grymm, as so many people have asserted over the years, too. I don't have anything else to pimp.
Okay.
Like most writers, I am constantly working on a plethora of projects, none of which ever seem to get done.
Okay. Did I seem to recall you had was it a SoundCloud or a Bandcamp page at one point for your music?
I still have that. I haven't updated it in a while. I don't think I've recorded anything in probably many, many years. It's actually been so long since I've done any kind of focus on music that the calluses on my fingertips have gone away. Which, I've started playing guitar again, more for therapy than anything else. And, I can only play for about 15, 20 minutes before it's like, ow, 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 ow. So, music is not something that I really do anymore.
Okay.
I'm kind of all about being a writer these days and working on different ideas that I have. My biggest problem is I'm great at world building. I'm absolutely shit at coming up with plot. So I'm working on that.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Well, two fanboyish questions, if you'll indulge me.
Oh, please.
Yes. Okay? So many hints have been dropped and references made to Angry Nun Action Squad. Was there actually an Angry Nun Action Squad?
Yes and no. So one of the ideas that we'd had somewhere in between doing E101 and doing VOODOO Walrus was to do sort of a sketch book where we would do little 3 to maybe 8-page stories, and one of those stories that I wrote down was Angry Nun Action Squad. And it was absolutely fucking ridiculous. And then he took that and he wrote an Angry Nun Action Squad story, and we were just really fucking amused by it. But it was literally nuns armed to the teeth fighting against priests who did bad things. Basically, if a priest fucked up, the Angry Nun Action Squad would appear and, force them to repent.
Let's see. What were some of the names that you had for the nuns? Like
Sister Mary Christmas.
Sister Mary Vengeance.
There was Sister Mary Torquemada. There was Sister Agnes of the Blessed Shroud. She was like the Captain Planet with their powers combined. Sister Agnes of the Blessed Shroud would appear, unsheath her katanas, and just kind of go to town. But we had some really fucking weird shit that was in there. One of the ones I wrote was a thing called As the Sledgehammer Swings, which was set up to be a soap opera that also involved this kangaroo that came around and hit people with a sledgehammer randomly.
Okay.
So And I believe it was a Chinese soap opera?
I don't remember that. I remember that you were very adamant that every time the sledgehammer impacted, there needed to be the sound effect of...
Kanga Wham!
Yes, Kanga Wham.
But the reason I remember, I think it might have been a Chinese or a Japanese one, because the theme of it was honor. Like, I remember talking about that a whole lot, and it was fucking bizarre, Keith. I don't do drugs a whole lot, but I was stone cold sober when I wrote that, and I don't really know what's wrong with me. It was something of a cry for help, and it's just a joke that sort of stuck. So Angry Non Action Squad sort of became the in-joke for VOODOO Walrus, and somewhere there are sketches that exist of some of these characters, unless we've thrown them away.
I don't even remember.
The one that actually does exist in a real form is Ferret Man. Yeah, there's a real Ferret Man comic out there. Not just the one we put on the web, but I believe you did a full book at one point.
Yeah, I did.
That was bad, Keith. That was really bad.
Yeah, I did encounter some of the online Ferret Man stuff when I was researching for the wiki, and I do remember reading it just like, I don't know what I just read.
That was the point of Ferret Man.
Yeah, again, this is a point in time when we had just started getting into indie comics, and we were reading all of the ones that are wildly entertaining but not good for you. I'm referring, of course, to the work of like Jonan Vasquez, Roman Dirge. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah. I mean, it's just, I love Jonan. I love Roman. I think their work is great. These books are not good for you. They will mess with your mental state, something fierce, and you will start coming up with some of the weirdest fucking shit. Kanga Wham, Keith. Kanga Wham.
Kanga Wham. You got it. All right. And I'm suddenly now not remembering what my second question was, but what constitutes a perfect chicken parm for the two of you?
You go, then I'll go.
All right. A not too thin, but definitely not too thick, boneless cutlet of chicken breast. Fried to a nice crispiness. On top of that, a good, thick type of sauce. Something with a kind of a robust, maybe a little bit rustic flavor. Heavy on the garlic. Gotta go heavy on the garlic. In fact, there is no such thing as heavy on the garlic. There's just garlic or wrong. There's only two levels there.
Well, there's burnt garlic, which really does fall into wrong.
But that's yeah. Mm. And you gotta dust that with some good old Parmesan cheese. Not a lot, just enough to give you that nice little seasoning, because let's face it, Kraft Parmesan isn't technically a cheese, it's just a seasoning.
Right.
And then you need to have the right mozzarella on top of all of that.
Low moisture skim milk mozzarella.
That's right. And you need to look at the ingredients, because unfortunately we live in an age where you have two different classes of mozzarella now. Some is made with vinegar. Do not get the one that contains vinegar. And I'm not just saying this because I hate vinegar. I'm saying this because it throws off the entire taste profile of your chicken Parmesan. Get yourself a block of mozzarella. You cut that shit up yourself into some pretty decent little chunks. You throw all that shit under the broiler, and you wait and you watch until that stuff melts down and caramelizes just right.
So, that's his version of a perfect chicken parm. Mine's actually pretty close. I'm going to get a little bit more specific. When it comes down to size, I think size is important. I think bigger is better. And what
I agree.
And what I want in a serving of chicken parm is I want an entire chicken breast that has been butterflied and pounded schnitzel thin.
Oh.
It is then dusted with a layer of flour, seasoned flour, salt, pepper, Italian seasoning, cayenne pepper, and a little bit of smoked paprika, and garlic powder.
Nice.
Okay, so we're going to mix that all together. Then we're going to do the egg layer. The eggs need to just be eggs. This is the one time when frying chicken where you don't want to use buttermilk and hot sauce. It will then be placed into a layer of breadcrumbs dusted with Italian seasonings and a little bit of Parmesan cheese. And again, when we say Parmesan cheese, we're not talking about the fancy stuff. We're talking about the seasoning that's in the canister. It then needs to be fried in a flavorless oil. The people who fry their chicken Parmesan in olive oil need to die and go to hell. It's a bad thing to do. Let's stick to peanut oil, or if you're allergic, go canola or vegetable oil. Either one's fine. So, you've got your fried chicken all made. Now it's time for the sauce. The sauce needs to include the following: onion, garlic, roasted garlic, chili flake, dried oregano, dried thyme. Mix this all together. Saute it and sweat it till it gets nice and fragrant and it smells really good. Add a little bit of tomato paste. Swirl this around. Get a nice, thick layer going and a good layer of fond on the bottom of the pot. Then deglaze with 2 glugs of good white wine. I was about to say red wine. I was like, no, that's a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
Going to deglaze, scrape all that good stuff off the bottom till it gets nice and thick because of that tomato paste. Then you dump in 2 cans of whole, peeled San Marzano tomatoes, except no fucking substitutes.
But Creepknight, what about San Marzano style
No,
tomatoes?
we do not use San Marzano style tomatoes because those are fucking American tomatoes, not a product of Italy, and all they did to replicate the San Marzano flavor is throw sugar in that can. No, we use real San Marzano tomatoes. You're going to throw those in, you're going to let that cook together, you're going to use your wooden, can't stress this enough, wooden spatula to smash that shit along the sides of the pot until it gets nice and chunky, gets really good. Then right there at the last hour, you throw in a good-sized sprig of basil, you stir it around, you let that shit flavor, you put the top, and you let it set. When that's finished, you're going to put a layer of sauce underneath the pan. Then you're going to put the fried chicken on top of it. You're going to put the Parmesan cheese down, this mozzarella cheese. Then you bake it until the cheese melts. Like he said, under the broiler. You put it out, you put a little bit more sauce on top. That's the perfect chicken Parmesan.
All right, well done. Okay, well, I think that's as good a note to end on as any. Well, I thank you, gentlemen, very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, sir.
This was fun.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so again, just to wrap up here, webcomic is at www.voodoo-walrus.com. We have Grymm, we have Creepknight. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to have you on again sometime soon, yeah?
Oh, yeah, anytime.
Please.
We're wars.
We'll just try to square the Skype issues here for next time.
Word sounds good to us.
With that, we're going to go ahead and bring this podcast to a close. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to have you back with us again next time. This Week We're Talking About is hosted by Keith Bowerman and is produced by Plum Media. Please follow us on Facebook at This Week We're Talking About. If you have comments or questions for the cast, please leave us a message or drop an email to twwtapodcast@outlook.com. This Week We're Talking About is distributed by the Next Level Podcast Network. Please check out all of the other fine podcasts at www.thenextlevelnetwork.com. While we're talking about that, I'd also like to call out a new addition to the network, Another Piece of the Puzzle, which discusses one family's experience with parenting a child on the autism spectrum. Episode 1 is now live on the network page, again at www.thenextlevelnetwork.com. Do check it out. All right, that's all for us today. Have a good night.